everyone, welcome to this updated video. So we've got quite a bit to discuss. Right off the bat there we can see that most vibrant red shading in the main development region contrasting the blue background. So that is our marked tropical wave. Now mind you, this time yesterday it had a 30% chance, a low 30% chance of formation through 7 days. Now since then the chance has more than doubled, now at 70%. So it is at a high 70% that we could see development. So by the next day or two we could have a tropical depression or even a tropical storm developing out there, and it is going to maintain a generally westward trajectory. So eastern islands of the Caribbean, the Lesser Antilles, be on watch. This is looking as though it's going to be something pretty significant as we head into the new week. We're going to be looking at the timing of impacts as well as how strong it could be based on what models are showing and the conditions that are in place. So let's get straight into it. First we want to briefly get this one just talk about this disturbance here. So this is a tropical wave approaching the northwest Caribbean, and by the way, it has induced a lot of heavy rain, strong winds, thunderstorms across Jamaica yesterday, especially in the afternoon hours, and even in the night and early morning some areas were still experiencing some periods of some downpours and those thunderstorms as well. So that tropical wave did its number on the island, but it is given that low 20% chance of development. We haven't seen the chance change much, and that's because the environment it is in is not a very conducive one. But as it makes its way toward the Yucatan and the southern Gulf, it may encounter a more favorable environment that could allow for some level of intensification. But regardless, it's likely to be a rainfall threat, bringing a lot of heavy rain, which could trigger some periods of flooding. So that's going to be mostly for Mexico and even Belize and parts of Guatemala, northern Honduras as well. So that moisture increase is going to be happening for the area. Now, as we look at the satellite imagery there, we can see it. So that is the location of it near Jamaica. And elsewhere across the Caribbean, we can see that there is some activity around for a couple of spots in Central America. Much not happening over in the east though, but that's going to be changing as we head into the new week. And looking out to our tropical wave, Invest 95L. So it is dubbed Invest 95L because it is an area of investigation. It's being closely monitored for development, which seems highly likely right now. So again, 70% chance of formation. The chance has more than doubled over the past day. So by the next 2 to 3 days or so, we could have a new tropical storm that is not just going to be loitering out there. This is going to be a problem for the Caribbean. It's not even an if scenario anymore to say, if this, if that. No, it's going to happen. Even if it doesn't become a tropical storm, which I think there's a low chance of that, because I definitely believe it will manage to reach that status before approaching the Lesser Antilles, and most models agree that it could be a strong tropical storm or even a hurricane approaching the Lesser Antilles. Now, of course, that is not a full guarantee to say, okay, yes, it's going to be a hurricane. We gotta wait and see for that. But in terms of it acquiring tropical storm status, I think that's highly likely to happen. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at some model data. We're going to be looking at a couple of runs, and first up we have the GFS run. So here we can see there we have the forecast time, and by the way, those black squiggly lines are called isobars. They join areas of equal pressure. So when we see them in a circular manner and they're tightly packed, with that value getting lower and lower, that value in red, that is a sign of intensification. So that is what we're watching for. And all these green shadings with a few spots of yellows, oranges is representing the precipitation rate. So let's go on to it. We've got the GFS. As we're going to be heading into Monday, that is when the model is expecting that the system is going to be crossing through the Lesser Antilles, potentially as a hurricane, and making its way across the Eastern Caribbean. The model then shows it to head for Jamaica before making its way toward the Yucatan and the Gulf of Mexico. Interestingly, the GFS is showing that the tropical wave that would be following behind may also get itself together and develop into something. So we'll see how that one goes. As we head on to the Canadian model, the Canadian is showing something very much similar. Here we can see that it is having the system crossing in potentially as a strong tropical storm or weak hurricane, then making its way just to the south of Jamaica, that next tropical wave following behind, and then it makes its way over to the vicinity of Central America and the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the ICON model is not expecting much development, but shows a pretty strong tropical wave making its way into the Caribbean and moving to the west. So the ICON is definitely showing some struggling of the system, and then the Euro model. So we can see here that the Euro is anticipating a pretty decent tropical storm to be approaching the Lesser Antilles as well. So as we're going to be heading into Monday, that is when the system is expected to make its way through. Then the model has it staying south of Jamaica as a tropical storm and moving towards Central America. So there we can see it, that pretty much all of our models, aside from the ICON, are expecting at least a tropical storm from this. It is still pretty far out, and it's likely that the Windward Islands will definitely be affected by this, but where thereafter, it is hard to say. We'll have to wait and see what the trend is going to be over the course of the next couple of days. So again, we've got most of our models showing that the system is going to be approaching the Caribbean as a tropical storm. Now, what does this mean? Tropical storm impacts will be possible, and it's likely that very soon as well, once 95L is going to be getting itself together, we'll eventually have the National Hurricane Center issuing advisories. So tropical storm conditions would be what to anticipate. The storm surge, which is as a result of the winds of the system pushing the ocean water on shore for the Lesser Antilles. So there's likely to be the storm surge, heavy rain, which may trigger flooding and even mudslides as well, and even those tropical storm force winds, potentially hurricane force winds, if it manages to become that strong. So we'll see how it goes, but we also want to take note of the conditions out there, because there's still some dust. So even though all the models are showing that, hey, this is going to develop into a tropical storm, there is still some dust around, and that may kind of help to limit development, because a very dry, stable environment is not something that these tropical waves really like. When the dry air gets into the circulation, it can help to dissipate some of that activity. We've seen that a lot with many tropical systems. So there is some dust out there, but on the contrary, the sea surface temperatures are well above average. So overall, environmental conditions are expected to remain conducive ahead of this disturbance. And by the way, I want to bring you to what the National Hurricane Center actually states about this. So this is in their update for the system. So it says this part specifically: environmental conditions are forecast to be unusually conducive for late June across the central and western tropical Atlantic, and further development of the system is anticipated. So what is that saying? We're having more favorable environmental conditions than normal. So that means we could certainly see the system get itself together and become a tropical storm. So we'll see how it goes. But again, the Lesser Antilles and especially the Windward Islands should be watching this very, very closely. And I'm watching it very, very closely as well, because, that's why I give you guys these very detailed updates on a daily basis. So it looks as though we could have our next tropical storm within the next couple of days. And so even though that is kind of for not necessarily the long term, but not immediately, let's go ahead and talk about what is going to be happening for the very short term, the immediate future. So as we're going to be heading through today, this is a look at the rainfall forecast across the Caribbean and surrounding areas. So we can see that it is quite colorful in the west for the Western Caribbean, such as the Cayman Islands, parts of Cuba, Jamaica, even the islands of San Andres, Providencia, and then toward Central America. So there could be some decent rainfall throughout today, some additional heavy downpours along with thunderstorms across the area. And we know how the story goes with those very heavy downpours. Sometimes there could be flooding, and especially as we head to parts of Costa Rica, Panama, and then to parts of South America such as Colombia, there could be those rainfall amounts exceeding 4 inches through today. And then for parts of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana, there could be some additional heavy rain as well. For the ABC Islands, things will likely be a bit on the drier side, and then through the Lesser Antilles up to the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and even near the Turks and Caicos Islands. There may not be like a whole lot of rain, but there could be some downpours today, along with a couple of thunderstorms. And then up to the Bahamas, for some of the islands, especially the southern islands, there could be some rainfall activity as well. So that is what is anticipated, guys. And again, I'll continue to keep you posted on this. And as we get closer and closer, with the consistency among our models, I'll be talking more and more about the impacts to anticipate, as well as the timing of those impacts. But overall, the system is going to be approaching early next week for the Lesser Antilles. And of course, I'm here to keep you posted. So that's it for right now, and I really do hope you found this video to be informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond to you when I get the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.